statement where you acknowledge the great work of many of our public services and our utilities, and I would like to echo that tonight. And in particular, I'd like to acknowledge the work that's been done by An Post. I think they've really done incredible work since COVID began, from the staff who really engaged with communities and helped those that were isolating, to the management team with their innovative supports for bookshops and small SMEs. Our post-COVID economy, our SMEs are actually going to they're going to have to pivot their business model towards online shopping. And An Post will play a large role here to ensure that when someone does go online, that it is easier, faster and financially viable to shop in an Irish online shop rather than an overseas one. But Minister, tonight I'd like to focus primarily on two communication issues, the first being the Broadband Connection Points programme that is currently being rolled out across the country. The second is the important issue of access to internet training and supports for our older population. Minister, in November of last year, the Government announced the deployment of 300 broadband connection points across the country. This programme was intended to be a stopgap for communities with the worst broadband coverage, and it was a very welcome announcement for those in our rural communities. These broadband connection points were heralded as high-speed internet hubs that would enable rural remote working. The locations that were selected by the Department to host the broadband connection points were primarily community centres, GAA clubs and schools. Now, Minister, I'd like to firstly say that this is in principle a worthwhile programme. Remote access to the internet is vital for any rural village and town, and even more so now that post-COVID our focus will be on enabling people to remote work from home or from within their locality. And I absolutely believe that our schools and community facilities should have access to high-speed internet. I've actually worked with a number of primary schools that had difficulty with their internet connections, to the point where one school I worked with, their internet fell over on their tech day. So all the children had to put their devices away and they couldn't go through with it. So there are problems with our schools and internet connections. So we do need rural co-working hubs that offer an opportunity to work remotely, and yes, we need our schools to be connected and enabled to teach in a progressively technological manner. But Minister, I cannot see how providing high-speed public access broadband under this programme to schools and other sports centres will meet the needs of either those facilities or the local community. I certainly cannot see how many of them will meet the needs of remote workers. For example, how does the Minister envisage that a school could provide an opportunity for remote working for local people? Does it mean that a person would just drive up, sit in their car and access their internet from there? Would schools have to open in the evening to facilitate remote access to the internet? And, you know, I think there's significant child protection issues in enabling schools to be remote working hubs. I think conflating the two needs, which are broadband provision to schools and remote working opportunities, will mean that neither need will be sufficiently met. So, Minister, can I ask what was the selection criteria used to identify those facilities to host a broadband connection point? Was there consultation done in the selection of those premises? Is this a service that those clubs, community centres and schools actually want to provide to the broader community? I've seen it reported that the Government has allocated 120 million approximately to deliver the rural broadband scheme next year, much of it to be spent installing these broadband connection points. And this is a significant amount of money. I believe that if the Government is going to spend such money on providing rural public access to the internet in order to enable remote working, that it should first prioritise premises that are suitable for the use. For example, are there empty government buildings, such as HSC offices, that could be reconfigured to provide dedicated co-working spaces with high-speed internet access, meeting rooms, hot desks and tele and video conferencing? These are the kinds of facilities that rural communities should have access to. Rural Ireland requires a broadband solution that meets its needs. Please don't shortchange them by providing solutions that just don't stack up, that promise remote working facilities but don't deliver. So, Minister, I ask that you relook at the locations that have been selected and expand them in light of the much heavier demand for an authentic and professional rural remote working facilities in our post-COVID rural world. Minister, I now move on to digital literacy, and I think it's become obvious over the last number of months in particular that broadband is a lot more, it's more than just about communication, it's about connection. Connecting with each other, with our local communities, the country and the world at large. But not all of us are connecting, particularly older people. And it's not because they can't or they won't connect, it's because no one is helping them to connect online. There are some startling statistics on digital literacy in Ireland. According to the 2018 Eurostat figures, over half of Irish people aged between 65 and 74 have never used the internet. Only 3% of those over age 75 have used the internet. So when you combine those stats, this represents over 70% of the total population over 65 who have never been online. Our recent experience with COVID shows us that it is more important now than ever that our older populations can connect to friends, family and businesses online. However, this unfortunately is not happening. According to Age Action, the key issue around technology is that it has been designed, rolled out and funded to exclude a large group of people in society who now have limited access to social, educational, financial and commercial opportunities when compared with any other sector of society. We cannot underestimate the impact that digital literacy has on a person. Being able to navigate online increases a person's access to services and information and means older people can stay independent for longer. People who have access to broadband save more money, continue to learn and teach new skills and keep up with the news and cultural events. Crucially, older people with digital literacy skills benefit from increased participation in the development of national policy. And this is key. Digital literacy is good for democracy. A lack of digital literacy in older people results in a reduced ability to participate in public policy development and consultation. Age Action notified me of the fact that of 8 open consultations on nationwide public policy documents in November 2019, only 1 offered public consultation workshops offline. By 15th of May, there were 2 public consultations open, both of which are online. So in real terms, this means that approximately 300,000 people over 65 cannot easily contribute to the policy-making processes that affect all of our lives. It is clear that digital literacy is even more important now than ever as we learn to migrate online and stay connected. Older people are losing out significantly more than any other cohort. Despite this, the successful Digital Skills for Citizens grant scheme run by your department is currently halted and is under review, and there appears to be no plans to continue this digital skills training. The funding stopped mid-programme when COVID hit, which means that many of the participants have been left without access to this very successful support, and those that give the training have been left in limbo with their funding ceased. So, Minister, can I ask if the Government will examine how this programme can continue to function on an online basis, and if he will consider reinstating funding for this very important programme, and if he has any other plans to focus and encourage more online learning for our older communities? Thank you.
First of all, thank Deputy Whitmore. I think she's absolutely right in commending on PUST. I mean, I think they have been imaginative and they do recognise a very good commercial opportunity for themselves, as well as helping companies to migrate their business to a more successful platform. On PUST have been remarkably successful. A couple of years ago, they were facing into very dire financial circumstances. They completely turned around their company. They have remade it, and I think they continue to be very innovative. And it is a tribute to the workers and to the management in the company. The selection of broadband contact points was made through the local authorities with their broadband officers, and there was a lot of local consultation to seek to identify the most appropriate spots, and that resulted in almost 300 being selected. I think a small number have fallen away since. You're right in saying there is a difficulty in relation to schools, because schools also, they are private patron models, but so they won't be making their premises available, most likely, to workers to come in and be involved in remote working. But they represent a small proportion of them. I think around 75 to 80 of them are in schools. In an ideal world, you would see our schools being more open to that wider community participation. But I have, in the past, in a previous life, if you like, when I was Minister for Education, it is very difficult to bring patron bodies with you to support new activities, and I know that is likely to be a problem. Obviously, the kitting out of these will be crucial, and a tender has been successfully awarded by Michael Ring's department, where it was the company who has successful will kit those out to develop the hubs. I think it is recognised that some will be more suitable locations than others, and we will seek to ensure that those that have the capacity to be kitted out, to be hot desks and so on, will be developed in that way. And my department is very determined to do that. And I will seek to see can we reinstate the digital education scheme. No doubt it was for good reason it was arrested.